The morning was calm when David stood at the old bus park, holding Amara's hands tightly. Their fingers trembled as if they both sensed something unspoken. He promised her he would return, richer and stronger. She smiled through her tears, whispering prayers for him. Life had been hard for them, with nights without food and days filled with hope, but love kept them going. When the bus pulled away, Amara ran after it for a few steps, calling his name. She didn't know that would be the last time she'd see him for 10 long years. In the city, David struggled. He slept on floors, ate cheap food, and worked jobs that left his hands bleeding. Every night, he looked at Amara's photo and whispered, "I'll come back for you." Slowly, he built a business that grew beyond his wildest dreams. Success came, but it also brought loneliness. Surrounded by people who wanted his money, not his heart, David started to miss the simple warmth of home, Amara's voice and her smile. He wondered if she still thought about him. 10 years had passed. Would she even recognize him now? Meanwhile, in the village, Amara's life was one of patience. People mocked her, saying she was foolish to wait for a man who would never return. "He's forgotten you," they said. But Amara kept hope alive. She sold vegetables, cared for the sick, and prayed every night. The house was old, her clothes were worn out, but her heart remained soft. Sometimes she stood by the road, watching every bus that passed, hoping he would be in one of them. The years went by, and hope became her only treasure. One day, a strange beggar entered the village. His clothes were torn, his beard long, and his feet bare. He carried a small bag and looked tired, but calmness shone in his eyes. That man was David, now a billionaire, yet dressed in rags. He wanted to know the truth. Did Amara love him for who he was or for what he had? So he hid his identity and went straight to her small hut. When he knocked, she opened the door and saw the beggar, hungry and weak. Without hesitation, she brought him inside. She offered him food, water, and even her only blanket. She didn't know he was testing her love. She saw only a soul in need. "Rest here," she said gently. "No one should sleep hungry." That night, David couldn't hold back his tears. Her kindness was unchanged by time or pain. The next morning, Amara washed his torn shirt and shared stories of her lost husband, the man she still prayed for every night. David listened, his heart breaking with every word. She had remained faithful all these years. Don't scroll yet. What happened next will shock you. The villagers began to gossip. They said, "Amara has lost her mind. She's feeding beggars now." But Amara didn't care. She told them, "When you have kindness, you never lose anything." Days turned into weeks, and David stayed, pretending to be poor. He watched her care for others even when she had little. Every time he offered to leave, she said, "You can stay until you find your way again." He saw how hard she worked, her cracked hands, her tired smile, her unwavering faith. It was the purest love he had ever seen. One evening, while Amara washed his torn shirt, a golden pendant fell from his pocket. Her eyes widened. It was the same pendant David had given her before he left. Her hand shook. She turned to him slowly, whispering, "Where did you get this?" He couldn't answer. Tears filled his eyes as silence filled the room. She stepped closer, her heart pounding. "Are you David?" He bowed his head. That moment was heavy with emotion. She dropped to her knees, crying uncontrollably. He removed his disguise, his face shining with tears. It was him, her husband. David knelt before her and said softly, "I wanted to know if your love was still real." She held his hands and replied, "Love doesn't change, David. Only people do." They cried together as years of pain melted away in that embrace. The next morning, the village awoke to the sound of cars arriving. Workers carried boxes and furniture. David's identity was revealed. The man they called a beggar was actually a billionaire. Everyone who mocked Amara stood in shame as her small hut was transformed into a beautiful home. David bought land, built a clinic, and helped every poor person in the village. But the biggest gift he gave was a lesson. Real love doesn't need gold to shine. Amara became a symbol of loyalty, and her story was shared with children for generations. She and David spent the rest of their days sitting on the porch watching the sunset together, two souls tested by time but never broken by it. And so, their story teaches one truth: pure love will always find its way home.